One of the number one questions I get asked every single day, why is the hiring process taking so long? Is it because of you or is it because of something else? Let's discuss. Before we get started, listen, I have two gifts down in the description for you. One is the Getting Started workshop for law enforcement officers. It's going to walk you through each stage of the hiring process. Some departments go out of order, but this is normally the order you're going to see the process going. It's got a bunch of hidden bonuses in there that's going to help you understand and be better prepared for your hiring process. It's a must-have. You need to get it. Second, if you're serious about becoming a law enforcement officer and you want to have advice specific to your hiring process, jump on a free one-on-one coaching call with myself. I'll sit down with you. We can get together a plan that will best suit you to make sure you get hired the first time and don't jam yourself up and wind up either costing you this career or a lengthy hiring process. Now, why is the hiring process so long? There's a couple simple answers to this, and there's a couple not so simple. So first off, the hiring process is typically long because of the phases you have to go through in each hiring process. So your written exam, your physical exam, your board interview, possibly a chief's interview, your polygraph, your medical, your psych, and a lot of these different departments don't have all this in-house. A lot of the larger departments may have it in-house, but most smaller departments or mid-level departments don't have this in-house. They're actually sending you to a third party, so they have to get you scheduled. And you're not the only one. They're opening up a hiring phase or a hiring process for that specific goal. And their goal is to get you all in on an academy. Now, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes they don't even have the billets for the academies when they start the hiring process. They try to see how many they can get in, say if they're So let's say they're shy 20 officers, right? Right now, that's not uncommon. Let's say they're shy 20 officers, but they can only get 4 hired. Well, they're not going to sit there and ask the academy for 15 billets if they don't know they can fill them because they only get 4 officers that make it through the hiring process in time for that academy. So that's another issue, right? They want to make sure that they can get enough people into the academy and make sure they can fill the billets so the academies don't harp on them. But as you're going through each one of these phases, each one takes time. It takes time for them to review your documents. It takes time for them to schedule you. It takes time for them to schedule with a third-party vendor. It takes time to make sure they have everyone they need to, say, sit down for a board interview and make sure no one has any other duties that day that they can't attend. There's a lot of things that go into this. Trying to assign a background investigator. Okay, are they going to use a third-party background investigator? Or are they going to use an in-house background investigator? And depending on which investigator they use is going to be how detailed they are, right? How thorough, and then also how invested in you. Now, if you're going through and everything's a third party, I'll be honest with you, background investigators that are third party, they don't care. They're getting paid regardless whether or not you make it through or don't make it through. Otherwise, it would be controversial. So at this point, you're already behind the 8 ball with that if it's a third party background investigator. But then they got to contact all your references. Then they have to contact all your work history. Then they have to contact any type of departments you may have had any run-ins with, or any other departments that you may have applied to prior. All these things kind of add up, and then they're doing you plus maybe 20 other candidates, 30 other candidates, 50 other candidates, depending on what part of the hiring process you're in. Sometimes it's not uncommon for a billet of a few officers to get hundreds of applications, and then they need to weed down those applications and see, okay, we have 20 billets, we have 300 applications or 400 applications. Now we need to narrow this down to, if they had 20 billets and they were trying to fill all 20, they might narrow it down to the top 100. But if they had 10 billets, they might only narrow it down to the top 50 or even less. So then they're going to run through that, and then they're going to invite all those people out to a written exam or a physical exam, whichever one they want to do first, or sometimes they'll combine it. Now, they have tried to make this process streamlined, but still at the end of the day, the fastest I've ever seen for a hiring process is 2 months. And that's a direct authority hire, direct hire authority. There we go. The longest I've ever seen is years, right? Sometimes you apply to these pool agencies, these hiring pool agencies, where you get put on the list. And then when they have a billet and your name is up on the list, then you start going through the process, and then it still takes a few months to go through all the phases like we just mentioned. Keep this in mind. Like you've heard me say this before, and I'll say this again. I never applied to a hiring pool agency. I think it's a waste of time. Agencies that do that are just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. I think they're actually doing more work than less work. But for the most part, if you're going through any hiring process, you need to account for a 3 to 4 month hiring process at its best, right? 3 to 4 months. That's if you have everything prepared and ready to go. If you do, you can significantly shorten your hiring process by months, hands down, months. And the easiest way to do this is to have all your documents ready to go. When they reach out to you, you immediately respond to them within that day, within a couple hours if possible, but at least by the end of that evening, even if you're at work or you're in class, as soon as you get a break, the first thing you should be doing is responding to an email, unless you don't have the documents or the knowledge at that point in time to respond. You should get it by that day and then respond to them. If you can't get it by that day, you inform them, hey, I'm getting the documents you requested. I'll have them to you tomorrow, or I'll have them to you by the end of the week, but you still respond that day. If they say, hey, you need to schedule yourself for this, you schedule yourself for the first available time. Don't schedule yourself for the last available slot. It's not going to benefit you. It looks bad. And then on top of it, it just prolongs your hiring process, because maybe the people that went the first week are already getting board interviews, and you signed up for a written and physical exam on the second or third week, and the first group of people already have board interviews and they've already been given conditional offers. There's a lot that goes into it. You have to keep all this in mind. So if you don't want to prolong your hiring process, you need to be on top of it. If you were ever a punctual person, this is the time to be it. You need to make sure that you're responding quickly and you're responding with the right information, because if it's a long email correspondence, it's just going to drag more things out. Same with your phases. If you go up to a phase and you fail a phase, some departments have allowed you to kind of retake phases or to reevaluate a phase and do it again. That's very rare. So don't count on that. But if they do, you're only hurting yourself. You're only prolonging it. And if you don't get hired by the time that academy date is, chances are they're going to cancel that billet, say, hey, you're not among the best selected. We did not select you. Then they're going to tell you to reapply again on the next cycle. Or they may hold your information and say, hey, we'll contact you when another academy comes open, which is the best thing you could hope for in that situation. But still, you're waiting at least 6 months, 4 months minimum if they're running quarterly academies, if they could get you in, if it's not their academy. So it really comes down to you. There's not much you can control in the hiring process aside from being prepared, studying, prepping for board interviews, prepping for psych interviews, prepping for polygraphs. Other than that type of work, you really can't control much outside the fact of being punctual and making sure you respond quickly, efficiently, and effectively. If you want to know more about this, we have plenty of videos out there to help you along the way. Those videos are gold and they can guide you through your entire hiring process. But if you're really serious about it, those gifts are down in the description. The Getting Started workshop is going to walk you through each phase so you know what you're looking for, what you're getting into, and you can better prepare, plus the hidden bonuses. And then if you're taking it to the next step and you're saying, hey, this is the career I want to go, but you have questions that pertain specifically to you, jump on the free one-on-one coaching call with myself. I'd be glad to sit down, help you out as best as I can, and streamline this hiring process for you. Stay safe. I will see you next time.